The Philadelphia Phillies continue to look like a lifeless organization, and there is plenty of blame to go around. But it seems like every time I scroll on the timeline or listen in on some Phillies talk, all fingers are pointed directly at Rob Thomson. While I'm not here to stick up and say that Rob Thomson has done a perfect job managing this Phillies team, there's plenty that you can absolutely nitpick as far as allowing Jose Alvarado to walk in a run or not pinch hitting Bryce Harper when he is sitting on the bench and Cal Stevenson and Garrett Stubbs are making your final two outs. There are things to complain about with Rob Thomson, don't get me wrong. When it comes to what is wrong with this Phillies team, I think he's pretty far down the list. I want to dive into what I do think the real reasons are as well as everything else with this Phillies team. But before I get fully into it, I do want to remind you guys to make sure you're smashing that subscribe button. That at this point in time, 92.1% of you guys have not subscribed to the channel just yet. We got to get this Phillies Digest family growing, and we need everybody more than ever as this team has hit a rut, hit a little bit of a cold spell, but we want to get to that 1,000 mark before the playoffs start. So we need each and every one of you guys along for the ride with us. Appreciate each and every one of you guys tuning in. And now let's get into a little bit more with Rob Thomson here. Now, once again, I'm not here to stick up and say that Rob Thomson has been perfect. I certainly have my complaints myself. Where I do think things get over the top is when you check the timeline and all you're getting are the takes for him to be fired. What a bad job he's doing. That he is the problem with this Phillies team, and I straight up just don't think that is the case. When I'm identifying what is going wrong, where is this team coming up short? In my eyes, you do not have to look far. Now, I'm recording this before Game 2 of the Phillies vs. Braves series, but we get this coming in here from Game 1 that Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, and Bryce Harper are combined 0 for 12 with 7 strikeouts on the night. And beyond just the results of that obviously just straight up has to be better. The process of it just isn't there. These are helpless at bats. These are not fouling off pitches or working a count or anything like that. They're just lifeless at bats. I don't want to say guys don't care, but it feels like they don't have the belief. They don't have that edge, that desire in the way that we saw from them for so many extended period of times. Now, to dive deeper into that, it is not just a last night thing that we're talking about. Pre-All-Star break, the number 1 through 3 hitters hitting splits of 281, 367, and 482. That was good for third in the major leagues. Since the All-Star break, just 225, 300, and 416, which sits at 22nd in the MLB. The bottom line to me is when your big ticket players are not playing like big ticket players, this Phillies team is not going to win games. That this team is so clearly built on the foundations of the Bryce Harpers of the world, the Trey Turners, the Nick Castellanos, the Kyle Schwarbers, that these guys have to make things happen, and they're simply not. Now, to point the finger directly at someone, Bryce Harper, it just has to be better. And what's particularly frustrating to me here is it did feel like we were done the Bryce Harper role. But the baseball season is a long period. It's a marathon. You're going to go through your ups and downs. But we were in a rut for Harper for quite some time. 30 plus at bats without reaching base. So unlike him as a player, and as a guy who we know who he is at this point. He is a guy who has been one of the best players in baseball for near a decade at this point. We know who Bryce Harper is. But that Bryce Harper has not put on a Phillies uniform in seemingly quite some time. And particularly when he goes through those type of ruts, feels like he always breaks out and goes on a tear. And that just did not happen this year. That we still continue to get this version of Bryce Harper, which is chasing down on my sliders or doesn't have quite the approach. And to dive into specifically what he's doing on the field, we're talking about having 2 home runs and 6 RBIs over his last 20 games, hitting just 225, 295, and 363 as far as the splits there. There is the speculation that maybe he's playing through injury, and if that is the case, it makes zero sense to me, that he could use nothing more than a vacation at this point in time, send him down to the 15-day IL or whatever it takes to get him right. But until we know that to be the case, I cannot speculate for that. I think the reality is Bryce just needs to be better. That I need to see more from him at the plate. I need this team to believe in themselves a little bit more in a way that is just not happening. And it is not just Bryce. That as much as he is the tone setter for this Phillies team, and I do think the guy who is the identity, is the personality, clearly the face, there's been another guy who very clearly has taken on this role and also has regressed to an area in which he has not been good enough. And that being Kyle Schwarber here. Now, for Kyle specifically, I'm a little bit less harsh on because there was the stretch of time in which he basically was single-handedly helping this Phillies team here. We're talking about during this period of time from July 31st to August 8th, in which he had 39 plate appearances and hit splits of 469, 564, and 1.031. Ridiculous stuff there. He had 5 home runs, a 25.6% strikeout rate, and a 27.3% ground ball rate. Now, since that time, from August 9th to August 20th, it's been brutal. Then in 46 plate appearances, he's hit just 100 at the plate with splits of 196 and 175. Only 1 home run during that period of time, which was the memorable grand slam. It was necessary to this Phillies team, but he's got a 30.4% strikeout rate and a 38.1% ground ball rate. Some really bizarre stuff for Kyle Schwarber overall. But when you take a step back and really think about this team, it's everybody that has to look in the mirror. It's guys like Bryson Stott, who's expected to take that next step and be a guy that could be a borderline all-star type talent, where the bat just simply has not been there this year. It's everyone up and down the line. I think about when guys like Nick Castellanos and Johan Rojas are truly having some of the most competitive at-bats on this Phillies team. That's a problem. That great for those guys who's been much better. Shout out to Rojas for some of the best hitting that we've seen from him, but he's also leaving guys on base, left 7 runners on base as far as the opportunity last night in game 1. It's got to be better top to bottom. But the problem with that is a guy like Brandon Marsh, who essentially is his platoon in center field, is hitting even worse. Then we're talking about over a 30% strikeout rate for Brandon Marsh, and feels like he's borderline a lost cause at the plate as well. So from top to bottom with this Phillies team, it just needs to be better. From Bryce Harper to Kyle Schwarber to Trey Turner, shout out to Nick Castellanos, who's been mostly good and I think having his best season with this Phillies team. But everyone's got to wake up. But my main message here being that you can call this a Rob Thomson thing. The reality is players play, coaches coach, and everything else in between. So for Bryce and all these guys, it's got to be look in the mirror time. There's nobody that's going to fix these Phillies problems for you. You guys got to find a way to get together. Now, can you be critical that there should be a little more kick in the butt from Rob Thomson, that his passive, his ability to just stick with guys or stay the course in the way that he's so excellent at it really is his calling card at manager? Can you be, think that could be wrong in this situation? Absolutely. I don't disagree with that either. I would like a little bit more of a fired up Rob Thomson specifically to this Phillies team. But the reality is he is who he is, and this team is who this team is. And this team has been good enough in years past. Let's not forget we've seen them play to the level of going to the World Series, of making deep playoff runs, but they got to find it within themselves. As much as we were all pounding the table for this team to get off to a hot start, to not paint themselves in the corner the way they have these past 2 years, feels like they got a little too content. And content is a dangerous word in the world of sports, and it feels like that Phillies team is eating into it. So hopefully they can shake things. There's still a lot of baseball to be played before we even get to the playoffs. But if this is the version of the Phillies that are going into the postseason, I don't feel great about how long they're going to last in that overall platform there. So we'll see how things shake out from here, but it is bleak in the Phillies world. I thought we were through this rut. I thought this team was digging at it. I thought they had turned the corner, and they straight up have not. So we will see when that corner fully is, but it certainly is not here yet. And hopefully, as I mentioned, recording this shortly before game 2 of the series starts against the Braves, hopefully they make me eat all these words and the bats wake completely up. But the reality is, I just don't feel very great about that happening. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Am I being too soft on Rob Thomson? Are you with me that the direct blame needs to fall on these big ticket players? I simply think it needs to be better. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Also, make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Dropping a like on this video and keeping this Phillies Digest family growing. I'm going to be with you start to finish. As long as this team continues on, I'll be talking about them on here. So make sure you're along with me, and I'll be talking with you right here on Phillies Digest. Peace.